have a motion and a second. Any discussions? All in favor? Any opposed? We will now ask our county clerk to read the next 5 names of those wishing to speak during the public comment section.
We have Darren Miller, Buster Posey, Larry Morey, David Linton, and Dan Gross.
Okay, can you read those names again? No one is approaching.
Darren Miller, Buster Posey, Larry Morey, David Linton, and Dan Gross.
Okay, the last call for the 5 names that were just read. Okay, thank you, sir. You may come forward and state your name and address. Thank you.
My name's Dan Gross from Stockbridge. Been listening to a lot of things people are saying. My family's, been around here for between 75 and 100 years. I moved away. I graduated Stockbridge High School in 1979 and stayed a while after that, but I moved away, been gone about 20 years. The county's changed a lot, some for the good, a lot for the bad. When I went to school, there wasn't any issues, as far as white, black, Hispanic, or otherwise. Everybody got along. Nowadays, people just don't get along. Agendas from different people, maybe. I mean, I really don't know for sure. I've heard a lot of sides to this story. I don't know where it stops. I really don't. I've been watching the commissioners. I really don't know you guys. Ms. Clemens seems to be a very nice lady. She's paying attention to everybody, which is great. I'm sure she didn't like some of the things that's been said. But, it was very disrespectful, and I was offended when this gentleman on the end started spinning in his chair, and when people were talking. If I sat here quietly listening to everybody, not agreeing to some things, and agreeing to most, I guess. But I think you ought to at least have the respect. And I think most of you guys seem like you do, to me. I think if we don't stop, I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you're offended by something, I heard on a radio station recently, I was listening to an interview, and the commissioner said that if one person was offended, that was one too many. Well, if everything changes just because one person is offended, then where does that stop? I mean, we won't have the United States of America flag in here. There's a lot of things that get offended. I mean, it seems like I'm hearing a lot of white and black issues, and I wasn't raised that way. But what about the issues with religion? What about, Muslim and gay rights and all that kind of stuff? So, everybody seems to be offended by something. I think we need to learn from our history, not erase it. We need to really learn. And I think for a long time we did. I believe when President Obama, became president, I thought, well, maybe this will be a really good thing. I don't think it turned out that way, in my opinion, because I think that the race relations are worse, from what I know. And I wish it wasn't that way. I want to move back and stay in Henry County. But to be honest, I'm not so sure that I'm going to. It doesn't seem like Henry County anymore. You guys have some of the ability to try to keep it at least similar to like it was, with some progress, obviously. But if it keeps changing, I mean, a lot of the good people that are from here, they're going to continue to move out. They're not coming back. My brother, before he passed away, he was living in Henry County. And he moved out. He hated it that he had to move out. He felt like he had to. Wasn't safe. Instead of fighting over a flag, maybe we need to fight over the ability to park in the Walmart parking lot somewhere down here without fear of our cars being broken into. You know, that's not a white and black thing. That's a crime thing. It's not a Confederate thing. You know, I'm not a public speaker by any means, but I am part of the silent majority. And believe me, guys, there is a silent majority. I'm going to start speaking up. People like me will start speaking up, not only speaking, but voting. I think all of y'all need to realize that. And I don't know where all of y'all live. I've heard all that stuff listening. But if you're representing this county, you need to live in this county full time. This is a good county. Don't be ashamed of living here. So I don't know if you do or don't, but I've heard that maybe you don't.
Sir.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll again check in with our county clerk.
The next 5 are Joanne Barber, Lonnie Campbell, Michelle Walters, Sabrina Whitney, and Devin Ward.
Good afternoon. If you would state your name and address,
My name
please.
is Joanne Barber, and I live on 176 Sherwood Loop. I'm not talking about no flag. I'm talking about my community where I live. And it ain't gonna take me but 2 or 3 minutes to say what I gotta say. I would like for you all to come over, to fix the streets where I live. That is what I want, the streets where I live, and to make it safe that I can live there, because it's right now, I can't even live there. It's really confused. So much going on over there, and I'm just really scared. Because, I got the Lord on my side, but I need the county on my side to come and help me. And that's what I come out here and say. And I'm not going to stop coming until you all help me. You understand? I'll be here next meeting, and that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Will you please state your name and address, please?
Lonnie Campbell. I grew up in Hampton. I'm now living in Rex, still in Henry County. And I'm going to start coming every time we have this, because this is crazy. Y'all have to remember, y'all work for us. We vote y'all into place. You can't just make these decisions and not look at what it does to the county, to our state. I am tired of seeing history covered up. You wanted the flags removed. I had no problem with that. But try to take away what happened there and then say it's not real. My family fought for this country. I'm a vet. My dad was a vet. His dad was a vet. My sister is a vet. I fought for that flag. I've got friends that died for that flag. I love that flag, but I also love my history. I came from the South. I am proud of the South. And what they stood for was not slavery. They stood for states' rights, something that we've lost, that they actually fought for and we have lost. The state can't do what they want to. The federal government controls us. And this is why things like this, where a representative of us oversteps their boundaries, and that needs to be addressed. I have the emails from the day she took office. There's no threatening emails in there that want to kill her or anything like that. There's people that are upset from what she did, but not threatening her. I looked at the emails. I went through them. My girlfriend went through them. I am disappointed. The majority of them were for it to stay there, to keep our history in our state, in our county. That place is beautiful. When the meeting they had a few weeks ago, there was a black guy there. You know why he came? Because he wants to keep Nash Farms just like it is, because he comes out there to go fishing. He didn't care about that flag. He wasn't scared of that flag. He wasn't scared of one of us, because none of us there had any problem with him or anybody else. Like the Marine said, there's only one real color, green. As far as I'm concerned, that flag is our color. That's what we stand for, and y'all need to remember that what happened in the past is the past. We need to worry about the future, and this county is heading in a wrong direction. We need to fix that. We need to do something. And people wanting to be the boss and in charge, that's not what you're here for. You need to be humble. You need to remember, you were put there, you can be removed from there. Any one of us can be replaced. Not one person here cannot be replaced. There's always someone better. You should listen and work with people. When we had that meeting, the person this was all about didn't even show up. Why didn't she show up to discuss her issues like a normal person would? You have a problem, you go to somebody. You don't email something. You don't slander people behind your back. You directly go after that and sit down and talk. And a battle is a battle. It doesn't matter if it's a skirmish or not. If one soldier died there, it should be remembered, period. Every battle is a major battle if you fought it, I promise you. I have family that's died in this state for the Confederate flag. My family donated the flag that was in the Capitol for the Battle of Atlanta. 21 soldiers died that day for the Confederacy holding that flag. My great ancestor died sticking that flag in a stump so that it didn't hit the ground. Why? Because we loved Georgia. We didn't own slaves. We were poor. I'm still poor. I'm poor as dirt. Always will be. But I love my country, and I love my state, and I love my county. I moved back here after coming out of the military because I loved Henry County. When I grew up here, we didn't have race issues. I went to school here from the time I was 6 years old. Never once did I have a race issue. We played together. We had fun. All the way through high school, we didn't have issues like that. Now, my son goes to school. That's all I hear about is race issues. Why? Why is race such an issue now when it wasn't then? You need to ask yourself, who is gaining from this? It's not us. None of us is happy about this race issue. I love my neighbors. 90% of my neighbors are black and Hispanic. I think there's 2 white couples in where I live at, and I'm happy. I don't care. I get along with my neighbors. I love my neighbors, and I think y'all need to remember that's the issue here. You need to love your neighbor, care about your neighbor. And if there's anybody here that would like those emails, I will give them out for free when this is over. I have no problem with that because we need to remember she lied. And as an official, that needs to be held accountable. And I'm all with recalling her. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You may proceed and state your name and address, please.
Michelle Walters, McDonough, Georgia, Henry County. I first heard about this just a few days ago. So I started doing a lot of research, and I'm pretty good at research. I go through news articles, I go through YouTube, you name it, I'll find it. There is a 3-minute, 10-second video, All Things Henry, on YouTube that Ms. Clemens put up. What it does is it talks about taking Nash Farms battlefield, let me be clear about that, it is a recognized battlefield, and turning it into a petting zoo. This is true. Anyone can look it up. It's right up there. First, Ms. Clemens went to the Friends of Nash Farm battlefield and asked them to move an entrenchment. Why? I don't know. They did that. She then asked that they remove the flag from the pole. They did that. They put it in the museum. That wasn't good enough. This was all over the news. Then I found a radio station, KAOK, that she did an interview with. And she stated that, yes, she did tell them to remove all of those flags from the museum. So she's lying. She did this on her own. She didn't have his support, her support, your support, your support. She only had Mr. Holmes' support. Nobody else knew that she did this. We can't have one commissioner running around making choices for all Henry County residents. We can't have that. That's why we have a board. We can have votes. You said, Ms. Clemens said that she had constituents come to her that this was a problem for them, that they were offended by a flag. You know what happens when you're offended? Nothing. Nothing happens when you're offended. If you don't want to go to the battlefield, you don't want to learn the true history, then you don't go. If you don't like disco, you don't go to a disco club. If you don't like rap, you don't go to a rap concert. But when you are offended, nothing really happens. It doesn't have to. You said if one person is offended, too bad. I might be offended by the color clothes you're wearing, but I'm not going to tell you not to wear them. I'm okay with that flag being in the museum. It doesn't have to be up on a pole. I think that'd be a more pure representation of the battlefield, but it should at least be in that museum. And you kept hounding those people and hounding them to where they felt bullied and they decided to pull out. And who loses? Not just the state, not just our county, all of America. Because I have read all over where people have come from every state and gone to Nash Farms. In your little 3-minute video, you stated less than 1,000 visitors to Nash Farms. I don't see how that's possible, not with the farmers market, not with the reenactments, not with any field trips that might be going on there. Where did you get that number? Do you understand what I'm saying? You are taking away history from all of us. And not just all of us in Henry County, not just all of us from Georgia, all of us from the United States. You stated the 51 states of America in your video. That's fine if you want to include Puerto Rico. They're not actually states, they're territories. But whatever, that's beside the point. But there were people that came from other countries and went to Nash Farms battlefield and enjoyed it and learned. You cannot learn everything from a book. Sometimes it's nice to go and feel, what does that iron cannonball feel like? How heavy is it? What did those clothes feel like? How heavy were they? There's so much going on in this world, and you're worried about getting a petting zoo. We have too many problems to worry about. We cannot have one rogue commissioner going and deciding what is going to happen for all of Henry County and, in turn, all of Georgia. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Will you please state your name and address, please?
My name is Sabrina Whitney. I was raised in Hampton, Georgia. I currently reside in just inside the Henry County line in Rex. What I have is that we have done an open records request for Commissioner Clemens' emails regarding the Nash Farms battlefield flag from the time she was elected all the way up until the time that the Friends of Nash Farms announced the closure of the museum. Up until that point, there were no emails regarding the Confederate flag to Ms. Clemens until she sent out this email here on March 16th to the board, stating that she had received overwhelming requests from her constituents to remove the Confederate flag. Okay. This was not true. She stated that she did not ask the Nash Farm, Friends of Nash Farm, to remove the Confederate flag from the museum's exhibits and gift shops. Moving on. The museum continued. She states in her email that the flag was removed by the property. At the time she sent this email, the flag was already down. This was on March 16th. We're not here today because that flag came off that pole. We're here today because the museum closed. Because the museum closed because they were told to remove the flag from the exhibits. That is why we are here. As far as her point that she makes in her email about in regard to the battlefield not being documented, there is a letter here from Paul Hawk, Chief of the American Battlefield Protection Program, dated October 25th, 2011, that recognized Nash Farm as a Confederate battlefield by the National Park Service. Furthermore, I just want to say, and I apologize, you know, I grew up in this county. My mother grew up in this county. The Henry County that I grew up in is not the Henry County that she grew up in. She was going to elementary school at the very first desegregated elementary school to be desegregated in Henry County. She did not raise me to have an exclusive attitude towards anyone. I was raised to live in an inclusive society that accepted diverse cultures, all cultures. I don't care that the flag came off the pole, But closing that museum on Confederate ground basically is excluding part of Henry County's society, is removing a portion of Henry County society heritage from Henry County. That's not the county that I want my kids to grow up in. I don't want my kids to grow up in a county that excludes any part of anyone. I want Henry County to be not only for me, but for Ms. Clemens, for the Henry County NAACP. I want it to be for everyone and not any specific group, not individualized and not departmentalized because of color. And that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Would you please state your name and address, please?
Good afternoon. My name is Devon Ward. I live on Gristmill Lane, Fears Mill subdivision in Hampton, Georgia. Commissioner Clemens is my representative in the area where I live. Couple of things I want to say. Number one, throughout all of my reading of all this information, Commissioner Clemens never requested that museum be closed. Never, not one time. It was not on the news. It was not written. It was not stated in any records that I saw that she requested the museum to be closed. The only thing that she requested was that Confederate flag not be flown out in public on public property. Commissioner Clemens is an individual who has great passion, high character, and is a strong representative and has made tremendous impact since she took office in December. And I want to say that I have not seen as much action in my district since she took office, and I want to celebrate her for that. At the end of the day, the last thing that I want to say is that we have a situation here where we have an opportunity here, rather, where we can be unified. We can be divided, or we can be unified. A house divided against itself, it shall not stand. The Bible says where there is unity, that there is strength. The presence of unity will allow our county to continue to prosper. The presence of unity will allow our county to maximize in our efforts to attract business and high-end jobs. The presence of unity will allow our county to set an example for other communities to model. If you look at what took place in North Carolina, and everything that's taken place as it relates to the bathrooms. Charlotte lost the All-Star game, the NBA All-Star game, because of laws that were passed, things of that nature. I want to encourage us to take a look at some different options or some different ways, Ms. Wood, so that we can have maybe a resolution to this issue and let the truth be told. Because the truth be told, Commissioner Clemens has received death threats. That's the truth. Commissioner Clemens has a husband. She has children. She has people in her life who loves her, aside from all of this. Who's thinking about them? And all of this is about a flag that all she asked was that it be placed in the museum instead of flying in the air. Commissioner Clemens, I stand by you. I'll vote for you again, and I don't care who in the world knows it. God bless you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. If you will state your name and address, please.
I'm Larry Murray with Ethics in Government. That picture you see up there is my great-great-grandmother. She was a full-blooded Edisto-Cusco Creek Indian. And underneath that, you'll see that I am a registered Native American. But let me say this. First of all, I'm an American. And I stand real strong on that. But let me say this. This is in your Georgia history books. They took our land. They took our land and took it to the Supreme Court, and Judge Marshall on the Supreme Court said You can't do that. But Judge Troop, the governor of Georgia, took it anyway and sent my ancestors to Oklahoma. Even though the Supreme Court said you can't do that, they did it anyway. There's records of this, and here's a Supreme Court ruling on that if you want to see it. Now, let's get to the other thing. I got a simple solution to that out yonder. Put the American flag up 30 feet in the air, put 20 feet up in the air of the Union flag and 20 feet in the air of the Confederate flag. It is a war memorial, and let the flags fly with the American flag overseeing all of it. And it's real simple to do away with these foolish, childlike situations that we've been arguing about all morning and have already offended hundreds. That is crazy. The government took my land, but that's all right. I'll make it back. The government has done a lot of injustices in my lifetime. Let me take you to Henry County. If you don't believe this, go to the archives of the state of Georgia. Carpetbaggers come south after the war. The South didn't, the boys that come home from the war didn't have no money. They didn't have nothing. They couldn't even vote to start with. The carpetbaggers come down here, and they became the judges and the lawyers and the CPAs and the shop owners. Jews come down here in thousands and bought up the dry goods stores. In Mitchell County, Judge Putney from Dougherty County brought down a group of blacks and his people that worked for him, and they were going to put a form of government in Camilla, Georgia. But they had one problem. When they crossed the line into Mitchell County, a bunch of people met them and killed 55. And they chased Putney all the way back to Dougherty County. But he had a Mason ring on, and they let that rascal live. You know, I grew up hating the Putneys and the Weatherbys because they were carpetbaggers. I didn't grow up hating blacks. Putney and Weatherby just used the blacks. There was atrocities on all sides. They were the blacks with the big owners that killed white people. There was whites that band together to kill black people. Does that make us guilty of what they did? Lord have mercy. I spent over $2 million of my money that I earned on underprivileged children, most of them black. If I hated them, I sure wouldn't send them to school. But you know, here's 3 articles here. I left all of you to read them. This is what it says. Today, the South is almost as populous as the Northeast and the Midwest combined. It talks about the economic growth of the Southeast United States is second to none in America. But this is what'll shock you about why is the South growing? Is it because of me or you or our beliefs in the flag? No, if you'll come read these articles, it talks about our manners and our culture and our heritage of who we are and how we act and how we treat each other. That's what makes us so popular. That's what makes us a special part of the country, because of the way we say yes ma'am and no ma'am and yes sir and no sir, and move aside and let somebody come by and talk about fixing the car and not charging for it. That's what makes America great. Not hating each other because of some stupid emblem that we can all we got to do is elevate 2 or 3 different ones. Now, Vernon Jones made a statement a few years ago, said, I'm going to turn DeKalb County black. That's racist. Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson has tried their best to preach hatred in this country. Hopefully,
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Your time is ended.
we're almost over that.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Your time is ended. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I call Mr. Johnson with the state NAACP board.
You excused, okay. County clerk?
Next 5 are Katrina Geiger, Katrina Geiger, Jonathan Buck, Elton Alexander, Randy McDaniel, and Don Meyer.
Thank you. If you will state your name and address, please.
I'm Elton Alexander, Maple Leaf Drive, McDonough, Georgia, Stockbridge city limits. Testing.
You can go, hold on one second.
Testing. Can you hear me?
They're both up. No, they're both, go to one of them, they're both up.
Testing. Testing. Thank you.
There you go. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I didn't want to go ahead of anybody that was signed up before me, so my name was called third. It's pretty simple, and to me, Dr. King said it best, which is the day that you begin to tolerate things and become silent on things that matter is the day that you be unfit to live. I'm paraphrasing. In this case right here, I've heard a lot about 1860, but 1960 was a problem. 2016 was a problem right here in Henry County. The resident at Fears Mill, we had a press conference out there to deal with the fact that we had racist graffiti painted in that neighborhood, right there in District 2. It's not 1860 what we're worried about. We're worried about 2016 and 2017. These issues permeate this society. I've heard a lot about, okay, we want to turn back the clock to how things used to be. How things used to be, black people had a place over here, okay? We were subservient. We were placed in a position where we did not have any power. Today, that has changed. It is a more diverse community, and believe me, there are many citizens that are offended by this flag. And they are offended by the fact that these measures move forward. The real issue is, how was this flag allowed to fly so long on county property without somebody doing something about it? How was this allowed to happen? Not the fact that it's coming down now. I applaud Commissioner Clemens for doing the right thing and moving in that direction to correct a wrong that this community had to serve under. There's no way, we can talk about it all day long, okay? But we can talk, really put into place things that have happened over time. And that very flag has flew under many lynchings of black people. That flag has flew at KKK rallies and all over America, disrespecting black people all over the country, all over America. We cannot ignore the fact that this has happened. You cannot not ignore the fact that Nash Farms was an unwelcoming place because that flag flew there. Many of us did not feel comfortable patronizing it or visiting the park under those circumstances. We cannot ignore half of the community. Things are different now. That's half of this community that is offended by this racist symbol. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it. It is what it is. We've had various speakers come up to talk about the offensiveness of this flag and what it represents. We can go back through history, and we heard revisionist, and I call it that, revisionist history being displayed here from this podium. Because when you talk about, okay, well, the Civil War really wasn't about slavery. It was about money. Though that money was being made off the backs of my ancestors. Our community was put in a position where we were subservient, we were subhuman in some ways, according to how the United States of America conducted business at that time. That symbol, that racist symbol flying at any public park or any public place in this time, in this age, in 2017, is completely unacceptable. Let's understand one thing. I don't criticize Commissioner Clemens. I applaud her for doing the right thing and taking a stand in this instance, because there was a wrong being committed every single day that flag flew higher than the United States flag and on the property, a government property. That needed to be corrected. That needed to be moved forward. And you know what? Sometimes it takes courage to do that. I applaud the courage of the individual that had stepped out front. I look at this whole situation and everybody asks one question: who's profiting? I'm going to tell you whose property. I can bet the fundraising account of the Sons of Confederate are off the charts right now because this issue is being exploited through the fundraising and raising dollars for that particular organization, because what has really happened is the truth hasn't been told. No one asked for that flag to come out of the museum, but you know what? I need a cause. I need to raise some funds. I need the dollars to come up. And I can only imagine how much that cash register till is moving
All right,
forward.
thank you. Okay, our county clerk to identify the next public
The
comment.
last three speakers are John Bailey, Ariel Shaw, and Reverend Jeffrey Benoit.
Can you state those names again, please?
John Bailey, Ariel Shaw, Reverend Jeffrey Benoit. Okay.
Okay, you may proceed, thank you. Again, if you'll state your name and address, please.
Good evening, good afternoon, yes. Reverend Jeffrey Benoit, 5783 Rex Mill Drive, Rex, Georgia. You've had a lot of great speakers here earlier today, and so I won't try to repeat what they said. I'm a 32-year military veteran, and I have spent my time in every skirmish and war since Vietnam. Is there a flag that I honor? You're damn right. That one there. Even sometimes I'm even offended at what this flag represents. It is the flag. It is our flag. Now, why do I put it in such contentious points? I'll tell you why. There's a law that says what is our national flag. And there's a law that says what national flag we will represent. There's a law that says how that flag will be displayed and how it will be folded and how it will be represented. But we also have the right to even burn that flag. We've seen that being done. But there's no law that says another flag can fly higher than that flag. There's no law that says another flag can even come comparable to that flag. Why do I use the law? Well, because you require us to obey the law. This gentleman, and gentlemen like that, they're here to do what? Enforce that law. We've talked about emotions here today. We've talked about the highest of our emotions in any and everything else that is associated with it. Our emotions is not a law. It is not a proclamation. It is not a line item. It's our emotions. And I think what we need to understand is that we need to keep our emotions in our emotions baggage. But we need to honor the law as to where the law is. And if there is a law that's being broken, we need to address that. Let me go just a little bit further. For years, they have flown the Confederate flag on state property. Here at the Georgia State Capitol, here in North Carolina, here in Virginia, and across the South. Who was that insulting to? Those who died at the hands of that. Who was at fault? The government. The government who allowed those to be flown on government property. We remember when it was flown at the state capitol. We remember when it came down on the South Carolina state capitol. That particular year, I walked from Selma, Alabama to Washington, D.C., the longest civil rights march in history, over 1,000 miles. Lost one of our marchers at 993 miles. Why? Walking for civil rights. So I bring that to say I'm not here to fight for a flag that has no prominence where law has given it. I'm here because you bleed, I bleed. I breathe, you breathe. So what I fight for is civil rights, not your rights, not your emotional rights, not your emotional feelings. And I use that so that you will understand that your responsibility is law, not emotions, not people's emotions. And so even if this flag has a personal burning place in our soul and spirit, that's fine. What's the law? That's the only thing I ask. What is the law? Does the law say whatever it is that you want to do or whatever you feel is what you can promote? If it doesn't, then you're wrong. So we're not talking about doing anything that's going to hurt anybody's history, their heritage, or where they come from, or where their fathers or mothers have fought for. We respect that. We respect that. But what we want you to understand is that there's a law that we have to follow. If I run through here and grab that man's gun, all of them going to come after me. That's a law. I've assaulted him, and they have the right to do what? Follow the law. And I'm just asking this Board of Commissioners and this county to understand it's not about our emotions, and that's where we often are wrong. We get our emotions all caught up in what's going on, and we abate the law. So as a civil rights activist, I leave with you. All that you're doing, if it doesn't have a law undertone, you're wrong. Your emotions is not the law. Your emotions is not proclamations. Your emotions is not the agenda. Let's stay focused on what we are here for and who we are here for and what we're called to do, because when we step outside of it, we can expect our constituents to do what? The same. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Okay, we'll now call upon our county clerk for additional. Anyone else?
That is all the ones that are remaining unless someone
Okay.
didn't come back after the recess.
All right,
There are a few.
for anyone that signed up, I think we have covered them all at this point. Okay, well, we were now just asked that if there are anything from the county manager and the county attorney that you would like to state at this time.
Good evening, Chair.
Would you
Oh, go
come before, please?
Chair and board members, obviously the issue of Nash Farm has certainly been a very controversial and divisive issue, not only amongst the citizens that are here, but also obviously internally with our operations. Because of the things that have come out, staff has certainly taken a look not only at Nash Farm, but at all of our parks. And we've identified that we have some operational issues. There are a lot of questions that were raised this morning and this afternoon that we at a staff level will have to address. I will tell you that once this issue was first brought to the county manager's attention, it was obviously via social media. And my first comment was, well, what's going on? Let's try to figure out how did we get to this point. Staff did do some research, and if you will just bear with me, I just kind of want to take you through what we've been able to research and then hopefully be able to answer some of the questions that have been raised this afternoon. I will tell you that staff is working diligently to look at not only, again, Nash Farm Park, but all of our parks. We're working to look at what agreements are in place, what rules and regulations are in place, and we understand that we're going to have to set forth some policies in terms of how our parks will operate. In 2008, a resolution was approved by the Board of Commissioners authorizing an RFP, which is a request for proposals, for the adoption of a master plan for the park, which was to include the following: walking trails, a parking lot, playgrounds, conversion of the activity barn into an activity building, bike trails, equestrian trails, covered picnic pavilions, and even a garden. It was further resolved that the park should be called Nash Farm, which set aside an area for the preservation as Nash Farm Battlefield. The master plan was prepared in 2009 by Lawson Associates, and I'm going to place a copy of the master plan on the overhead. And again, if you'll notice on the master plan, the plan referenced the park as Nash Farm Park and called for its development into a regional park with multiple passive and active recreational areas, and also included an area designated as the historic battlefield. In addition to a war museum to showcase artifacts from American wars. The master plan did not contemplate that the entire Nash Farm be preserved or treated as a battlefield. In March 2009, the Board of Commissioners adopted a resolution, which is resolution number 0976, which allocated $42,000 to Nash Farm for the development of a military museum. The resolution acknowledged the donation of uniforms and other military-related items from World War I to the present date from various military groups. The Board of Commissioners has never taken any formal action to request that the Civil War Museum operating at the park be closed. Further, the board has never taken any formal action to request or direct that any Civil War flag be placed on or removed from the park. Likewise, again, we have found no record of any official action of the board authorizing the War Museum referenced in the master plan be limited to a Civil War museum. Again, the county manager, myself, and my staff will be doing an undertaking inventory of our parks and facilities and operations conducted thereon. Staff will evaluate all of our current programs that are in place where third parties have been given the authority over parks and facilities in an effort to ensure that all of our operations are fully lawful and meet the needs and the desires of the community. I will likewise be evaluating all of our policies and procedures to ensure that situations of this type do not occur again. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Now, we now will open the floor for questions to County Manager Commissioner Holmes.
So if I'm clear, you said the board has never authorized action to fly the Confederate flag on Nash Farms.
Yes, sir. There are no records, no resolutions, or any ordinances that we've been able to locate that authorized any type of flags to be flown at Nash Farm.
Okay. Now, what I've also heard, there was the selling of services and Confederate goods on the actual park property. Did the board back then authorize the sale of merchandise and services at Nash Farms?
I cannot find any resolutions or ordinances that would have authorized such.
And my question is, were there any memorandum of understandings between the county and the Friends of Nash Farm regarding the museum?
No, ma'am. There are no resolutions, ordinances, or agreements that we've been able to locate between the Henry County Board of Commissioners and the Friends of Nash Farm.
Commissioner Clemens.
And I just want to, for the record, to state that in December, I had a conversation with the operators of that museum, and they've never been given permission from this county, any board, any legal documentation to even be in the facility. And I need you to verify if you know that we did, or that is absolutely true, that they never had permission to be there.
It is my understanding, obviously, there are no records that are present, and obviously I wasn't privileged to any of those conversations prior to being involved in it now. But no, there are no records or any documents that we've been able to locate in terms of an agreement being in place. I have spoken with our Parks and Rec Director and requested a copy of all agreements for Nash Farm, and in my review of those agreements, I find no such agreement.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Commissioner Holmes.
Now, we saw a couple of people flash letters from the Department of Interior earlier, but a letter is just a letter. Was there any official action taken or resolution from the Department of Interior certifying that Nash Farms was a battlefield?
I am not aware of any resolutions or ordinances that would have come before the board taking any official action. I don't have a copy of the information that was presented, but I'll be more than happy to take a look at it. But in terms of your question, there is no action that's been taken by the board.
So had you heard any information over the years, because the Civil War was over 150 years ago, tell me why we would designate Nash Farms as a battlefield 150 years later. Why wasn't it in the history books before 2011?
Well, I certainly can't answer for why something may not have been in the history books 150 years ago. It's my understanding that back in 2006 or 2008, and the attorney may have to correct me on that, there was a desire to develop that piece of property for a residential subdivision. At that time, it was determined that maybe there were some artifacts that were located on the property, which triggered the board halting that development. Again, I'll have to defer to the attorney in terms of the next steps as that occurred.
Excuse my voice, but Madam Chair, I think that's the perfect segue into a topic that I wanted to get covered earlier regarding how the county acquired Nash Farms initially and why didn't the county move forward with purchasing the property if we knew this was a historic site.
We'll
So-
invite up our county attorney. This is the proper time to ask questions.
Thank you, Chair Board. I'm going to try my best to answer the question Mr. Holmes has posed. In 2005, there was a property owner called Georgia General Parcels. That was the corporate name of the entity that owned that property, the 200 some odd acres. It's now Nash Farm. It was connected to another 100 or 200 acres across the county line in Clayton County. They filed a rezoning application to seek to rezone the property from the RA zoning, I think, to what was R3 at the time, which my recollection is maybe R3 was like 12,000 square foot lots. It was met with great opposition, and the board voted during that rezoning process, not actually during the rezoning hearing, but while the property was going through the rezoning process, the board voted to acquire that property. It was at that time that I first heard, and I was county attorney at the time, it was at that time that I first heard of any historic questions or issues regarding the property.
Back up first.
Yes, sir.
So before the board acquired the property through eminent domain, the property was purchased by,
The company was called Georgia General Parcels. People may have heard of the name Maxi Price. He used to have a lot of car dealers.
and how much did he buy the property for?
According to the deed records, it was $3 million.
Okay.
So the county voted to acquire the property by eminent domain, which is condemnation. It was condemned. It was condemned by virtue of a method called the special master method. And what happens in the special master method is the Superior Court judge appoints a special master, typically a local lawyer. I think the law requires them to be a lawyer, requires them to be located in the county. We had a hearing in front of that local lawyer. The notes that I have maintained from that time indicate that the county's appraiser, we hired a real estate appraiser, he valued the property at somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 million. The property owner's appraiser valued it at somewhere in the neighborhood of $12 million. The special master awarded $8,077,000. The county then appealed that designation because the law allows, if you're dissatisfied with the special master's award, you can appeal it, appeal to Superior Court. And all of that happened in late 2005, early 2006. And then the condemnation it was litigated. It just dragged on. And apparently in 2009, the county authorized the county attorney at the time to dismiss the appeal. So the lawsuit just ended. Along the way, the county borrowed money and began development of the park. And I expect the reason the county dismissed the appeal, it had just been so much time had passed. And it probably wasn't worth the effort to fight the value any longer.
And what was that total amount?
$8,077,000, 8077.
So did the county pay out via borrowed funds, bond money, or was it SPLOST funds?
The initial payment of the money, I believe, was just general fund money. It was then, the county then borrowed money, and I don't remember the exact amount of the debt. It wasn't the full $8 million. I think it was something in the neighborhood of $6 million. And that debt is serviced by impact fees, I believe. So it was financing done through the ACCG's, it's called their lease purchase financing program. So we financed that purchase, and the county's still paying on it today.
So at what point did the Friends of Nash Farms get approval to occupy the property?
As Sherry indicated, I found, and I reviewed ordinance as well, I found no ordinances, no resolutions, no official action by the Board of Commissioners that authorized Friends of Nash Farms to take possession of or begin operating in the property. What we did find, interestingly enough, when the property was originally purchased, within a matter of maybe a year, the county actually hired a part-time, I think they were called a curator or caretaker, and authorized that person as part of their compensation to live in one of the structures. But it appeared from what I read, either minutes of the meetings or the resolution, that they were to serve sort of as a caretaker and to give people tours. There was really no mention in any of the resolutions about the operation of a museum. It appeared that at some point, probably around 2009 or 2010, we start seeing the entity Friends of Nash Farm showing up. I think there were some times when the board recognized that Friends of Nash Farms was raising money or doing something or another. But I found absolutely no authorization from this board putting Nash Farms into the possession of the museum, authorizing the museum to be operated, authorizing a flag to be flown, or anything else.
What I found curious is when this whole mess started, all the activity was sparked by an organization called the Nathan Bedford Forest 469 out of Rome, Georgia. And it made me curious until I found out that there was a shrine of him at Nash Farms. Can anybody tell me who he was? He was the first Grand Wizard of the KKK? No. Yes, he was.
Just a moment, okay, the questions are now being addressed to the county manager, excuse me, Commissioner Holmes. The question is being addressed to the county manager, county attorney. They were unable to respond, so can we move to the next question?
He was the first Grand Wizard of the KKK, and he headed up the Fort Pillow Massacre. So when people in the public, and again, we're a diverse community, and I must say that nobody on this board has mentioned anything about race, even though we differ on things. Nobody up here has said anything about race. The question is, should we be flying the Confederate flag on public property when everybody in this county pays taxes to pay off the debt services for Nash Farms? So if that's the case, then we definitely should respect everybody in the county and not just the few people, mostly people from outside of Henry County who came here to complain about a Civil War historical site that has never been proven historical.
All right, are there any other comments from any of the other commissioners?
Yes, and I just want to say that a lot of people have come, and of course I've been the one on the front line for doing my job, because it is my responsibility to govern, to make sure that laws and policies of this county are being followed. When I realized and started doing the inventory in my district and found that there were squatters in my district, in a park, that are not here today because they said they didn't know the rules and regulations, and now they want to talk about it. Well, that's after the fact that I was thrown under the bridge about a flag that was not government property. They weren't supposed to be there, and I think that the citizens elected me to make sure that their tax dollars are spent properly, and not that anybody can just come into this county, open up doors, and move in and stay for 10 years. So when you guys talk about resign Commissioner Clemens, I do my job, and I do it very well.
Other comments from other commissioners? Any other comments from any of the Commissioner Prince?
County Manager, what year was this master plan? Was it adopted by the board or was it created by the board?
It was completed in 2009, but I have no record that it was ever adopted by the board.
Okay. And what area, I can't see it very good, what area is the battlefield? It says
This area is labeled archaeological survey area typical. I think this, if you read the whole document, and you really have to see, it's a 50-page document. So that document contemplated that this area be set aside for its historical value. These buildings, some of which are the existing buildings, some of which were proposed to be added. I think it was this building, Sherry, that was designated as the War Museum. And the remainder of the park was to be green space, wetlands back here, walking trails, equestrian trails, there's an amphitheater over here. That was what the plan called for. And that's been the only plan that's existed that we've been able to find any records of.
And have you had any commissioners working on this plan?
Working on
on this plan for this master plan to bring this park and this passive park and museum and everything to life. I know we've had several commissioners over the last 6 years. Just talk about that and how much money was there and how much money has been given and who's been championing this.
Well, certainly, there was $42,000 that was put forth for the actual master plan. I know that there's been meetings when you came in, Commissioner Clemens, and asked for a copy of the master plan, and I do believe one time you provided me with a copy of it because I wasn't aware that there was one that existed. Obviously, you did mention to staff, and even during the budget process, talk about some of the improvements that you wanted to see in reference to Nash Farm based on the master plan that was in place. Mm-hmm.
Other comments or questions from the board? Okay. Well, I will make a statement here. I will tell you that what this whole experience has shown is that we've got processes that should have been followed that weren't. This should have been all vetted through the Board of Commissioners. I, as a chair, have no more authority than any other commissioner sitting up here. I think that this process has also shown that we've got some work to do, and I'm glad to hear that our county manager is going to move forward in how to review not just where we are with Nash Farms, but also where we are with all of our parks here in this county. I will also say that, you know, when you get to tell what a community is when it gets into hot water. And I will tell you, just listening to the comments today, I heard pain, I heard passion, but I also heard that there is a deep desire for all of us to want to work together for Henry County. We are growing, we are changing, we are a diverse community. And so I'm looking forward to, I'm just going to say to all of the community leaders out there, there's opportunity for us to continue to talk about race relations, to begin to seek to understand, but also to respect. And so again, I'm looking forward to whatever our next plans are regarding this update of the master plan. I think it needs to be vetted through the whole board, just like any other plan that should occur for all of our citizens. If we vetted this in the beginning, we would have not offended because we would have been able to talk about it and to discuss it and to hold public hearings, to have citizens' input. So I hope that we as a board will be able to do that going forward. I will also say that as a citizen of Henry County for 14 years, I'm not giving up on this county. That is why I chose, even without my experience in politics, to get involved, to be a part of where Henry County will go and how to get there together. I'm a strong believer in teamwork and respect of other people. I was born in Birmingham, Alabama, during the Civil Rights Movement, around the corner from Arthur Scholl's. My librarian was the mother of the young lady that was killed in the 16th Street bombing. And I will tell you that what I understand is that history does exist. I will also tell you that I've come to learn by the grace of my parents and because of my faith to be respectful to others even when I do not agree. But yes, Henry County is here, we've changed, and guess what? We need to respect each other. So those of you that came today, I want to applaud you. You came, you shared your opinions, you asked what we asked you to do, which is to respect the First Amendment rights of those that were here and to voice yours as well. What I am concerned about is that it did show that here in Henry County and the rest of this world is that we've got some serious issue with racism, prejudice, and some other things that we as a people need to come to continue to work towards. I agree with the comments that what example are we setting for our children? We are the adults. They look to us. They need to be educated. Here in Henry County, we've got tons of historical opportunities, not only at Nash Farms, but we've got our Heritage Veterans Park over there right in McDonough. We've got right over near the Atlanta Speedway, we've got an Army Aviation Heritage Foundation that allows military veterans to come and share. And guess what? Just recently in Stockbridge, we had the historic marker of the Floyd Chapel Baptist Church recognized because that is the ancestral church of the King family. And guess what? We now may have an opportunity even in Locust Grove because there is a Rosenwald school that we are researching now that may have some historical value. So there is plenty of opportunities here in Henry County. When I got up this morning, what I was excited about, yes, we're gonna hear from the people. Yes, we've got to work on the plans, but yes, Henry County is going to work together to demonstrate to the rest of the world how do you work together with a changing environment for the good of everyone. So I just wanted to say thank you all for being here today. I look forward as this board continues to work on common goals because yes, we've got to work on this county remaining a safe community. We've got opportunities to figure out how we're going to address our infrastructure. Yes, we need to make sure that we're working on economic development opportunities and an image that will bring forth the professional services to help balance the industrial workloads that we have here. But guess what? We need to be shaping the future for Henry County for our children. Somebody has shaped it for us. We're not going to mess it up. I agree that a house divided will not stand. And I'm looking forward to doing what my part is and my commitment to working with those that will help us to move forward. And I'm committed to working with this board and understand that it takes a majority to make some major decisions. So that is my commitment, and those are my comments. Are there any other comments from the board? Well, at this time, we'll move to the next item on our agenda, which relates to the minutes for our last meetings. So the approval for our minutes are for May 16th, the regular Board of Commissioners meeting. I'll call for a motion to accept those minutes.
So moved.
We have a motion.
And second.
And a second. Are there any discussions or revisions? All in favor? Any opposed? Are there any further comments or questions from the board? Moving on, our next upcoming meetings and events on June the 20th at 6:30 p.m., there will be a regular Board of Commissioners meeting. On July 4th, the regularly scheduled meeting has been canceled due to the July 4th holiday. And then on July the 18th at 6:30 p.m. is a regular Board of Commissioners meeting. So we will now move into the item 17 regarding the resolution to authorize the acquisition of real estate by eminent domain or negotiated purchase relative to Campground Road, and in addition to the replacement of the executive session. Mr. Jocksetter.
Thank you, Chair. The resolution I'm presenting at this time is a resolution to authorize the acquisition of 890 square feet of right-of-way, 8,769 square feet of permanent easement. This is the last parcel needed for the Campground Road extension. This parcel is all the way at Campground Road and 155. It's part of the Shingle Roof Campground property. The reason we have to go through this process rather than just buy it is the manner in which title is held. We don't think we can get good title by buying it. I've spoken to the attorneys representing the shingle roof. They're aware of it. I don't think there's any real controversy. We may have some work to do on the money, but we will resolve that. So that's the resolution that we're asking approval for. This is in District 3, I believe. It's the southwestern corner of 155 and Campground Road.
Okay. You've heard the presentation from Mr. Jocksetter. Are there any questions or comments? The floor. Okay.
I'm familiar with the piece, Patrick. And so this is the last piece we need on the Campground Road extension.
It is.
And
this is, and if you're familiar with the property, the camp meeting area is well on the interior. This is, at its deepest, is about 15 feet into the wooded area that's right along the corner.
Okay. All right.
All right. Other questions, comments? All right. The floor is now open for a motion.
Make a motion to approve, Chairman.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. Any further discussions? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, well now, this concludes our agenda for the day. We now will call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Have a motion?
Second.
Have a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, and thank you all for being here today.